Hello, welcome back to the Quality Matters Daily Dive, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified. I'm Kyle Chambers, and today we are going to be talking about actually a somewhat recent article we put up on our website. And this is from our series of articles for ISO 9001 Explained. And we're going to be talking about a topic that I've probably talked about a few times here already, is non-conformance reporting. Now, you might be saying, Kyle, we've talked about non-conformance reporting. What's the deal? Why are we talking about it again? And it's really pretty simple. Non-conformance reporting is so incredibly fundamental to a functioning quality management system, and even more so for a small business. You know, when you're in a larger organization, when I say larger organization, we're talking about some of the mid-size, 500 plus employees to, many thousands of employees. And what you find happens in the larger organizations is the business begins to fragment, as it has to. There's no way to maintain a management system with more than 500 employees where you don't begin to fragment some of the requirements. And the wonderful thing that can happen when you do start to fragment those requirements is you've got opportunity for lots of data collection. You can create some wonderful dashboards, do some really fantastic reporting. Problem is, with a small business, you don't have that much data. If you start to segregate your data and spread it out, you're going to wind up with some pretty weak data points. One anomaly out of only 10 data points really doesn't mean that much. So non-conformance reporting is incredibly important for small businesses. So as you know, Texas Quality Assurance, we primarily support small business. Truth is, most of the folks watching this, you probably work for a small business. If not, I guarantee most of your suppliers are a small business. So let's take a look here real quick. I'm going to show you what we're talking about. So if you haven't gotten familiar with our website yet, do check it out. I swear this isn't a cheesy sales pitch. We've got tons of free stuff, tons of goodies on here. I was a quality manager for a long time, and let me tell you, I understand how it goes. You are dying to find something of benefit and something useful that's not overly complicated, that's not, let me think of a nice way to say this. Oftentimes, what you find online is written by folks with more education than most of the population, and they love to speak in a way that describes the level of education they have. We try to break it down. What's the basics, the fundamentals? What do you need to do your jobs? Do check this out. So we've got tons of great blog post articles up here from what's the purpose of a management system. It's what we're looking at today, clause 8.7, control of non-conforming outputs. So we'll dive in here. Hey, we even have little other videos that we've done talking about this stuff in here, but this is a really good article that I'd suggest you dig into. Now, we're going to talk about it a little bit straight from the standard today, but this is going to be really great resource for you, especially if you're a quality manager that doesn't have the budget for additional consultation, or maybe you're short on manpower and you just need an edge. Do check this out. While I've got the website pulled up here for a moment, I do want to show you something else. We do have, we're trying to find a better way to put it on the navigation so the navigation doesn't get too wide on here, but we do have our free resources and downloads. Just take a minute here to show you this. Now, we're adding more stuff to this. Probably even by the end of the day today, I'm going to have some more goodies on here. But what we've done is we've taken a lot of the real common tools that we know quality managers and small business owners need. So from a supplier and vendor approval questionnaire, what do you need on there? To some the effective forms, right? Things like an Excel template and a Word template. Really great stuff. All you have to do, put a little bit of information in here, click submit. You're going to get the link to download. Really cool stuff. In any case, let's jump back to talking about the article here. So when we're talking about non-conformance reporting, if you didn't see the previous episode we did on it, we talked about the difference in non-conformance reporting versus corrective action reporting. And these are two separate topics. Check out one of our previous daily dives for more information there. But we're going to be looking at clause 8.7 from the ISO 9001 standard. This is for non-conforming outputs. Now, while it says non-conforming outputs here, the language of the standard does talk more primarily to non-conforming outputs as a result of your production or service provision. But here's a great thing. This can be used very, very easily for any non-conforming output across your organization. Most of the clients that we work with at Texas Quality Assurance, they utilize your non-conformance reporting system for everything from production errors, rework, which we'll talk about, to things like hey, we were talking about supplier approval. If someone filled out the purchase order request that you have incorrectly, tell your purchasing department to submit a non-conformance report. That is going to force that non-conformance, that non-conforming output, something done in a different way than we want it to be done. That is going to force it to be reviewed. We're going to get to track it and analyze it. And then we can begin to track and analyze by department, by defect code, by disposition. Lots and lots of great things we can do with the data just by submitting a report saying, hey, this wasn't done correctly. Now, you might be thinking, all right, Kyle, you're telling me to paperwork myself to death. No. A well-defined, well-organized non-conformance reporting system will not paperwork you to death and is truly going to save you a ton of time and energy in the long run. So let's take a look here. So a non-conformity, as we say here, is effectively an output that did not conform to some previously identified requirement. Take note of it. Very, very important stuff. We don't want to lose it. Very valuable data. Even if, and I would even argue sometimes, especially if you didn't do anything about it, you just left it as is. Very, very valuable. Because what happens, think about how many times, this happens in a workplace. You're sitting around lunch, you're getting a cup of coffee, and you're complaining to the guy next to you about, man, I'm so tired of blah, 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 blah keeps happening. Well, what evidence do you have to show that it keeps happening? All you have to show is the fact that you're complaining about it. And let me tell you, complaining about stuff doesn't solve problems. Reporting it does. And I mean reporting it not in a little snitch type way. I mean reporting it in a non-conformance report manner does solve problems over time, because then you can analyze the data. And the fact is, you may not remember it occurring with the frequency you think you do. And there may be some things that occur with a greater frequency than you're aware of. Wonderful data. So what we want to do is we want to identify how many times this particular nonconformity occurs. Again, let's broaden our scope of nonconformance reporting to not be so directly related to production and service provision. So what we're going to do once that report is issued is we're going to identify a disposition code. Now, these disposition codes are not taken directly from the ISO standard. It's a little bit of an interpretation, but it works really, really well. And we've had a lot of clients go through several ISO and API audits with these disposition codes, and it works fantastic. So what we want to do is we want to identify, what did we do about this nonconformance? Remember, we're not trying to eliminate the root cause with nonconformance reports. We're just documenting something went wrong. Okay, so if something went wrong, immediately we're going to retrain, we're going to educate them on it. This doesn't mean you put them through a formal training. This means literally I sat down and said, Bob, you can't do it this way next time. Cool, I've got record, I did that. We're going to rework it. My gosh, when you are dealing with production issues, document all of those little in-process reworks. This is one of the freebies we're going to put up on the website soon. We have a kind of a pink tag system that we utilize that's really, really great for those quick production issues. You don't want to have to send someone off to a computer. You don't want to have them get out a clipboard. We just need a real quick tag on it. And that can be done very simply, very easily, very effectively with a pink tag system. And to ensure that this doesn't become some negative stigma, oh man, there's a pink tag on my work today. Let's try to switch it around. Give some incentive for a period of time for employees that do report on a pink tag, so that now it's a good thing to say, hey, we had to do a rework here. And man, I think this is a good chance to improve things. You might find this goes hand in hand with our good catch card system we've talked about before, which is also going to be loaded to our freebies on the website soon. We're just not there yet. Another one, scrap. My gosh, this is super, super important to track as well. We don't want scrap material, and scrap material almost always means we've got to rework something as well. So scrap's a big, big loss for us here. Another one could be accepted with concession. So maybe we're doing an inspection and it's out of our tolerance, but we know the application that's being used for the customer. Maybe we even have a copy of the customer spec, and the customer spec is not as tight as our spec is. So we can document that we are accepting this under concession. That can work as well. Not always the greatest idea, but sometimes it does work and you can do it. The other option, which document to death, is leave as is. Look, we had a problem, especially again, paperwork issues in the office. Someone didn't file a job release properly, or whatever the case may be. Look, we know this didn't happen exactly as it needed to be, but we're just not going to do anything about it right now. I need a paper trail to show how many times this happened, so that the 10th time it happens, I can raise red flag and say, guys, we got an issue over here. So leave as is a really, really great disposition code. So we quote here kind of where it comes from in the standard. The organization shall deal with non-conforming outputs. Correction, that can be a few ways. Correction, kind of where we get our rework from. Segregation, containment, that, let's just say, should be assumed when we have an issue, and goes real well with the pink tag system. Inform the customer. This is where we can get the accept with concession, leave as is. So we try to go through here and show you a few details how it gets matched. But what we want to do is make certain that we are not confusing our non-conformance reporting with our corrective action system. So we've talked a lot before about process maps, and we just did a whole episode on it recently. So process maps, you have inputs and outputs. The input of one process becomes the output of another, and the output of one becomes the input of the next. Pretty much the definition of a system. So our non-conformance reports, a single non-conformance report can be an input to a corrective action if we decide the severity or particularly the risk is great enough. Also, a more common input for the corrective action system is going to be a trend of non-conformance reports. And this is why I say document as many of those non-conformance reports as you can, because that is how we're going to build our trend. All right, so let's take a look here. The purpose of a non-conformance report need not be strictly limited to the outputs production and service process. So this is exactly what I'm talking about here. We need to make sure that we broaden this scope a little bit for ourselves. Also, fantastic for other processes. We'll broaden it even further. Let's talk about health and safety. Well, how many times when you walk out into the shop floor do you see a slip, trip, and fall hazard or something along those lines? Maybe we didn't do anything about it right away, but we want to document that it was there. This is where these disposition codes come in real handy as well. So we had a safety issue, and we went ahead and moved whatever it was that was in the walkway. Rework. Fantastic. Maybe we were out in the shop and we saw someone working with their safety glasses, and we want to take note of this for whatever reason. We think this is worthy of documenting. Retrain, educate. I told the guy you have to wear them. We're using anytime we're doing grinding operations. Got to have the safety glasses, got to have the face shield, so forth. Maybe you see someone operating with a grinder, whatever it may be. Fantastic stuff for documentation. The same is true when we go into the environmental issues and any other compliance issues. So if you've got any questions about really how to develop or utilize non-conformance reporting, strongly encourage you to check out the blog post we have here. We're going to dig into minor versus non-conformance reporting. And this is one of those terms that gets really kind of bizarre sometimes. So, and a lot of times this comes up only in an internal audit that we grade these nonconformities. But what you would expect if you're doing a nonconformance report just in the course of daily operations, and you identify that it meets what we call major criteria. Major criteria means that there's a significant gap in the system. We're simply not doing anything or much of anything for this particular requirement. That's going to constitute major. In that case, that presents a significant enough risk, go back to risk-based thinking, to where we need to issue a corrective action to eliminate the root cause, make a change to the system so that it never happens again. Minor is just, honestly, someone made a mistake. Someone forgot something. Individually, making a mistake and forgetting something, not a terribly big deal. We want to document it. But when we have that trend of issues, that's when we might escalate to a corrective action report. So, I hope this information is useful and helpful to you. we really try hard to put a lot of good and helpful information here on our Texas QA website. So if you have not visited yet, do check out texasqa.com. Check out the blog post that we have here. Lots and lots of great information. Of course, we have the Daily Dive is going to be archived over on Rumble. So if you didn't catch it today on LinkedIn, or if you caught this, you're like, hey, what's all this other stuff you've been talking about? Just go on over to rumble.com and you can find Texas Quality Assurance there and check it out. Let us know what you think. And if there's anything else that we can do to help you, do not hesitate to give us a call. We never bill for a phone call. And I love to talk about quality assurance, compliance management, and do what we can to help you out in your workday. If you need a little bit more assistance, we of course have our paid services that we can work with you on. But really the goal right now is let's get you the tools and resources you need to do the best you can with your job, save time and effort for what matters most. So you guys have a great day, and I hope to talk to you soon.